The first time my cousin married my boyfriend, I tried to stop the wedding. The second time, I helped her zip her dress. That was how I knew I had really come back. Vanessa stood in front of the mirror in my aunt's guest room, wearing a cream-colored courthouse dress that ended just below her knees. It wasn't extravagant. There were no flowers filling a ballroom, no string quartet, no photographer directing us toward the light, just a white dress, a pearl clip in her hair, and my boyfriend waiting for her at Boston City Hall. My boyfriend Ryan Mercer, the man who had kissed me 3 nights earlier and told me he was too busy with his MBA program to come over for dinner. Vanessa caught my eyes in the mirror, her hands froze near her waist. "You're really not going to say anything?" I looked at her reflection in my first life. That sentence had broken me. I had screamed. I had demanded to know how long it had been going on. I had called Ryan 12 times before he finally picked up. I had driven across the city in sleet, arrived at City Hall half out of breath, and made enough of a scene that a security guard had escorted me outside. Ryan had called me unstable. Vanessa had cried. My aunt had accused me of ruining what was supposed to be the happiest day of her daughter's life. My mother had begged me to go home. I hadn't gone home. I had missed the final technical review for my senior capstone instead. One stupid afternoon had become the first loose thread in a life that eventually came apart completely. 5 years later, after a failed company, a lawsuit, thousands of lines of code with my fingerprints all over them and someone else's name on the paperwork, I had left a mediation session after midnight. I remembered rain on the windshield, headlights, a horn, then nothing. When I opened my eyes again, my phone said January 19. I was 24. My capstone defense was still months away. Ryan was still technically my boyfriend, and Vanessa had just sent me a message that read, "I think you deserve to know before tomorrow. Ryan and I are getting married." Now she was standing in front of me, waiting for the version of Nora Whitman who would fight for a man who had already chosen someone else. I reached for the zipper at the back of her dress. "Hold still." Her eyes widened. "Nora." I pulled the zipper up. It caught once near the middle. I freed the fabric carefully and finished. "There." Vanessa turned around. "You're not angry?" "I didn't say that." "Then why are you helping me?" Because I had already seen what happened when I spent my life trying to stop people from making choices they were determined to make. I had begged Ryan to stay, begged him to explain, begged my family to believe me later. I had begged him to put my name on technical documents I had written, begged him not to make another promise to an investor before the software could support it, begged him not to tell me we would fix the paperwork later. By 29, I had become very good at begging. I had no intention of practicing again. I stepped away from Vanessa. "You should marry him." She stared at me. I picked up my coat. "Nora, wait." I paused at the door. She looked almost disappointed. Maybe she had prepared for a confrontation. Maybe Ryan had. That thought hurt more than I wanted it to. "You should hurry," I said. "Traffic downtown is bad." Then I left. My mother called before I reached the sidewalk. "Nora, where are you?" "Heading back to campus." "You aren't going to the ceremony?" "No." There was a long pause. "Your aunt says you're taking it surprisingly well." I almost laughed. That sentence could have come directly from my first life. "Mom, Ryan was dating me when he decided to marry Vanessa." I know it's terrible. I'm not defending him." The word "but" hung between us anyway. She eventually said it. "But Vanessa is family. So am I." I didn't mean, "I know." And I did. That was another thing I remembered from dying once. People could hurt you without intending to. Intent did not erase consequence. My mother lowered her voice. "Please don't do anything you'll regret." I looked across the frozen street toward the Harbor Bridge University engineering building. In my old life, this was the point when I would have said, "How can you be worried about what I'll do?" This time I said, "I won't." That part was true. I had a very different plan. My dorm apartment was empty when I returned. Maya had a lab until 4. I took off my coat, opened my laptop and made a list. Not an emotional list, a technical one. GitHub, AWS, Figma, Slack, Workspace, private API documentation, database, sandbox, shared Google Drive. Ryan had access to all of them. Not because he had built any part of Lattice, because I had given it to him. Lattice had started as a scheduling tool for home health agencies. The problem sounded simple until you tried to solve it. Nurses had certifications, patients had care requirements, travel time mattered, overtime mattered, continuity of care mattered. A schedule that looked efficient on paper could collapse the second one employee called in sick. I had spent 14 months building the optimization layer. Ryan had contributed market research, 2 pitch decks, and a name. When we were in love, I had considered that a partnership. Now I understood the difference between contribution and ownership. I started changing passwords. Then I stopped. In my first life, I had reacted before preserving anything. Not this time. I downloaded access logs, repository history, shared folder activity, permission lists. I exported them, made 2 encrypted copies. and uploaded one to a storage account Ryan had never known existed. Only then did I begin revoking access. His AWS credentials disappeared first, then GitHub, then the product workspace at 3:12 p.m. My phone buzzed. Ryan, did you change the repo permissions? I stared at the message. Another followed. Ryan. Nora. Then Ryan, I know you're upset, but don't mess with the project. My thumb hovered over the screen. In my first life I would have written 6 paragraphs. Instead I typed, the repository is mine, you no longer need access. His response came almost instantly, it's our project. I read it twice, then I took a screenshot. Another message appeared, can we talk after the ceremony tomorrow? I blocked his number. That was when Maya walked in carrying a paper grocery bag and complaining about the cold. She shut the door with her heel. I swear Boston is personally offended by my existence. Then she looked at me, then at the laptop, then at my face again. What happened? Ryan is marrying Vanessa tomorrow. The grocery bag slid slowly onto the counter. You're Ryan. Apparently not. Maya stared at me for 3 full seconds. Do I need shoes? I frowned. For what? To go commit a misdemeanor. Despite everything I laughed. It startled me. The sound felt strange in my own chest. No misdemeanors. Fine, a strongly worded parking violation. I already handled it. She pulled out the chair next to me. How? I removed his access. Her expression changed immediately. Maya had spent enough nights beside me in the lab to understand what that meant. Did you back everything up first? I looked at her. That was why she was my friend. Not are you okay, not how could he. The practical question first. Yes. All logs. Yes. Shared drive. Yes. Cloud history. I nodded. She relaxed slightly. Good. I turned back to the screen. There was one place I hadn't checked yet. The repository download history. Most users never looked at it because normal development involved hundreds of routine pulls and pushes, but Ryan hadn't written code. There was no reason for him to clone the full private repository. I filtered by account. My stomach tightened. 2 days ago, at 11:43 p.m., Ryan's credentials had authenticated from an IP address associated with his apartment. A full repository archive had been downloaded. Not one folder, not documentation, everything. Maya leaned closer. What is that? I didn't answer immediately. In my first life, Ryan's company had somehow possessed an early version of Lattice. Even after I stopped working with them, I had assumed I had given it to him during the chaos after the wedding. Maybe I hadn't, maybe he had already taken it. I exported the log, then I exported it again in raw format. What did he download? Maya asked. My entire repo. When? 2 nights ago. The apartment seemed suddenly very quiet. Maya sat back. Before he told you about Vanessa? Yes. She swore under her breath. I closed my eyes for 1 second. The pain was still there. Of course it was. Rebirth hadn't removed 4 years of memories. It hadn't made Ryan less important to the woman I had been yesterday. But pain was no longer the same thing as confusion. That was new. I knew exactly what I had to protect. At 5:06 p.m., an email arrived from the engineering department. Capstone external review assignment. I opened it. My project would be reviewed in February by a faculty panel and one outside industry professional. The external reviewer was listed beneath Dr. Miriam Chen's name. Julian Hayes, Principal Engineer, Meridian Home Health Systems, Harbor Bridge University, Class of 2019. I had never heard of him at that moment. He was only a name on a screen. I had no idea that he would become the first person in my second life who never once asked me to sacrifice myself to prove that I cared. But that came later that night. The only thing that mattered was the file sitting in my encrypted folder, a timestamp, an IP address, a complete repository download. Ryan had taken Lattice. Before he married my cousin. This time I wasn't going to chase him. I was going to let him keep walking and find out exactly where the road he had chosen led. Ryan got married at 10:30 the next morning. I knew because my aunt posted 11 photos before noon. I was in the engineering building when Maya silently turned her phone face down. You don't have to hide it, I said. I'm not hiding it. I'm protecting my blood pressure. I kept working for the first few hours. That was harder than I expected. There was a part of me that remembered loving Ryan, not the man who had stolen my repository, the younger version, the one who had carried ramen to the lab at midnight, the one who had sat on the floor beside my desk while I explained optimization constraints he barely understood, the one who had told me I was brilliant before he learned that my brilliance might be useful to him. Grief did not disappear just because someone deserved to lose you. That was something my first life had never taught me. Around 3 Dr. Chan appeared beside my workstation. You changed your architecture. I looked up. Part of it. Why? The previous permissions were too broad. She studied me. Dr. Miriam Chan was not a woman who filled silence because it made other people uncomfortable. Technical reason. Partly. Personal reason. Yes. Will the personal reason affect your submission? No? Good. She placed a folder on my desk. External review is Friday. This Friday. Yes. I thought February. It is February next week. I checked the date. She was right. That was another strange side effect of remembering another life. Some days felt duplicated, others felt misplaced. Dr. Chan tapped the folder. Mr. Hayes has worked on scheduling systems in home health operations. He will probably ask about deployment assumptions. I'll be ready. I don't grade heartbreak nor I grade work. I blinked. She walked away. Maya looked over the divider. Did Dr. Chan just emotionally support you? In her language. Terrifying. Friday arrived with wet snow and a broken heater in conference room B. Julian Hayes was already there when I walked in. He wasn't what I expected. Most alumni who returned for external reviews wore the uniform of people who wanted students to know they were successful: fitted suit, expensive watch, company-branded laptop. Julian wore dark jeans, a charcoal sweater, and a visitor badge that had been stuck slightly crooked on his chest. He stood when Dr. Chan introduced us. Nora Whitman, Julian Hayes. Nice to meet you, he said. His handshake was warm and brief, no lingering, no unnecessary pressure. Then he sat down and opened a notebook, an actual paper notebook. I presented for 23 minutes. He interrupted twice, once to ask how the optimizer handled caregiver continuity, once to ask whether my travel time assumptions were static or updated from actual field conditions. Neither question was designed to make me look stupid. That shouldn't have surprised me, it did. Ryan loved asking questions in public that he already knew the answer to. He said it made me look smart when I explained things. In reality, it had made every room feel like a performance. Julian waited until I finished before speaking again. You've rebuilt part of the assignment engine recently. I felt my shoulders tighten. Yes. Was that planned? No. Dr. Chan looked at me but said nothing. Julian turned one page in his notes. The new version is cleaner. Thank you. But you're compressing a lot of work into a short period. I can handle it. I didn't say you couldn't. The answer came so easily that I looked at him. He continued. I'm asking whether you want the panel to document the architecture change as part of the review timeline. It may help if anyone compares earlier and later versions. My pulse shifted. Anyone? Maybe he had noticed more than I thought. That would be useful. Then we'll document it. He didn't ask why. That was the first thing I remembered about Julian Hayes. He noticed. He offered a practical option. Then he left the door closed until I chose whether to open it. After the meeting, I went downstairs for coffee. Julian was at the counter ahead of me. He glanced back. Do you drink coffee? I almost smiled. That's a strange question to ask in a coffee shop. A lot of engineering students drink things they hate because they're tired. Fair. I've seen someone put 6 espresso shots in hot chocolate. Was that person you? No comment. I ordered tea. He nodded toward the cup. So the answer is no. The answer is that coffee tastes like burnt anxiety. He laughed. It changed his face. He looked younger, less like an external reviewer, more dangerous in a completely different way. Then his expression settled. Your work is strong. Thank you. Don't let the rewrite turn into unnecessary perfectionism. I won't. I mean it. So do I. He gave me a look that suggested he did not believe me. My phone rang. Ryan. I had blocked his personal number. This one came from an unfamiliar number. I declined it. It rang again. Julian glanced at the screen and then deliberately looked away. I'm heading out, he said. That small act of privacy touched me more than it should have. Thanks for the review. See you at the next one. He left. I answered on the third ring. What? Ryan exhaled. Finally. How did you get this number? It's Kyle's. One of his classmates, of course. What do you need? There was silence. He wasn't used to me speaking to him like that. Nora, I know. You're hurt. I don't think you do. I didn't want it to happen this way. You downloaded my repository before you told me you were marrying Vanessa. Another silence. This one lasted longer. I backed up work we were doing together. You weren't writing the software. I helped with the business model. That doesn't make my source code yours. Jesus, Nora, I'm not trying to steal from you. You already took it. I was protecting the project. From whom? He didn't answer. I said, your access has been revoked. I noticed. Good. We still have a presentation in March. No, you have a presentation. Nora, I'm not part of it. You can't just walk away. For a moment, the memory of my old life came back so sharply that I could almost feel the cheap carpet under my shoes in Ryan's first office. You can't walk away now. The investors are expecting a demo. The team is depending on you. We all made sacrifices. Every request had arrived disguised as an obligation. I leaned against the coffee counter. Yes, I said, I can. We built this together. No, Nora. You had access to something I built because you were my boyfriend. Those are not the same thing. His voice hardened. So this is revenge? No. Then what is it? A boundary. He laughed once. It was not an amused sound. You really think you're going to build the whole thing alone? I already did. I hung up. My hands shook afterward. That annoyed me. I wanted boundaries to feel powerful. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they felt like standing alone in a room after everyone had left. I went back upstairs. Dr. Chan had emailed the review notes. Attached to them was an updated project record, architecture revision documented February 2, primary developer Nora Whitman, external review witnessed by Julian Hayes. I stared at those 3 lines. No drama, no confrontation, just a record. In my first life, I had constantly tried to convince people of what was true. In this one, I was beginning to understand something. Much more useful. Truth worked better when it had timestamps. By the middle of February, the wedding photos had stopped appearing in my feed. Not because Vanessa stopped posting them, because I muted her. I muted my aunt too, then 3 cousins, then Ryan's mother. The silence afterward was almost embarrassing in its effectiveness. There had been a time when I thought healing required some grand emotional breakthrough. Apparently, sometimes healing was a settings menu. My mother still called. That was harder. Vanessa says you haven't congratulated her. I told her she should marry him. You know what I mean? I don't think I do. Nora, sweetheart, I don't want this to become a permanent family fracture. I closed my eyes. I was sitting on the floor of the lab hallway because every table was occupied. Mom, she married my boyfriend. I know. She didn't accidentally borrow a sweater. I know that too. Then why is everyone worried about whether I make her uncomfortable? My mother went quiet when she spoke again. Her voice was smaller. Because I know you're strong. There it was, a compliment used like a bill. I had heard versions of it all my life. You're stronger, you're more mature, you can handle it. Vanessa had always been the one everyone protected because she cried sooner. I don't want to be strong in ways that only make other people's lives easier. My mother breathed in. Nora, I have to go. This time she didn't stop me. The next 4 weeks were the most productive month of my academic life, not because heartbreak had turned me into a machine, because for the first time in years my time belonged entirely to me. Ryan had needed help with slides. Ryan had needed numbers checked. Ryan had needed me to look at a competitor's feature. Ryan had needed me to explain the product before a networking event. Each favor had taken 30 minutes, an hour, a night. The relationship had been leaking my time in amounts too small to notice. Once the leak stopped, I suddenly had days. I rebuilt the assignment engine. I separated the constraint layer. I wrote tests I had postponed for months. I documented design decisions so clearly that Dr. Chan wrote only one comment on the next review. Finally, from her. That was practically applause. Julian attended by video. He was in a conference room somewhere downtown, sleeves pushed up, a whiteboard behind him covered in diagrams. You're ahead, he said. I'm aware. That sounded defensive. That sounded like an accusation. It was envy. I smiled. Dr. Chan looked between us. Julian immediately returned to the technical discussion. That was the second thing I learned about him. He understood lines. He did not test them for fun. After the review, my inbox showed a new email from Ryan. I had blocked his numbers, not his university address. Need 15 minutes. That's all. I should have deleted it. Instead, I opened it. We have a chance to pitch a real incubator next month. I know you're angry about Vanessa, but this project matters to all of us. Can we please separate personal issues from business? I stared at the last sentence. Then I laughed so loudly that Maya came around the corner. What? I turned the laptop toward her. She read it. Oh, that's beautiful. Right? He married your cousin and is asking you to be professional about it. Apparently. Men have survived on confidence for too long. I closed the email. I didn't respond. 2 hours later, another arrived. I can give you equity. Then another. You'd still be technical co-founder. I archived them all. That evening, Dr. Chan asked me to stop by her office. She had a printed document on her desk. I want you to sign the updated capstone declaration. I read it carefully. It listed my project title, current repository location, submission history, and my declaration that the work was independently authored except where documented. Is something wrong? No. Then why now? Because your architecture changed and because you mentioned a former collaborator had access. I looked up. I didn't tell you he downloaded the repository. You don't have to. She folded her hands. University procedure is not a substitute for legal advice, but clean records are useful. I signed. She signed as faculty supervisor. Keep a copy outside your university email, she said. I already do. Good. I hesitated. Dr. Chan. Yes. If someone uses an earlier version without permission, she stopped me. Talk to an attorney. Right? Not Reddit. I wasn't going to use Reddit. Everyone says that. I left smiling outside the building. Julian was waiting near the crosswalk. I almost walked past him, then he lifted a hand. Whitman. Hayes. He looked at the folder under my arm. Good meeting. Durchan told me not to get legal advice from Reddit. Excellent meeting. We crossed together. It was cold enough that every breath showed. Are you going to the alumni industry mixer next week? He asked. I wasn't planning to. You should. Is that reviewer advice? No. He paused. Career advice. I glanced at him. And if it weren't? He looked ahead. For the first time since I had met him, Julian seemed genuinely uncomfortable. It was subtle, a tightness near his mouth, a second too long before answering. Then I'd wait until your final grade is submitted. My heart gave one stupid, hopeful beat. He continued. I don't date students whose work I'm reviewing. I didn't ask you to. No? Very presumptuous. Extremely. I smiled. So after my grade is submitted? He looked at me. There was warmth in his eyes now. Ask me again. Then the pedestrian light changed. He walked away toward the station. I stood there longer than necessary that night. Maya burst into my room holding her phone. You need to see this. What? She turned the screen toward me. A Massachusetts business registration page. Careloop Labs, Inc. Registered officers. Ryan Mercer, Chief Executive Officer. Vanessa Reed Mercer, Chief Marketing Officer. I felt almost nothing. Then Maya scrolled. Their website had gone live. The headline read, Smarter Workforce. Scheduling for modern home care. My pulse slowed, not sped up, slowed. I clicked through route optimization, credential matching, continuity scoring, dynamic reassignment. The language had been changed. The sequence had not. Careloop was describing Lattice, not the current version, the old one, the version Ryan had downloaded 2 nights before his wedding. Maya whispered, Nora. I took a screenshot, then another. Then I saved the web page as a PDF with timestamp information. Maya watched me. What are you going to do? In my first life, I would have called Ryan, demanded an explanation, told him exactly what I knew, given him time to fix it. This time I closed the browser. Graduate. Leah Rosen's office was on the 4th floor of an old brick building in Cambridge with an elevator that sounded like it had personal objections to vertical movement. She did not look impressed by my story. That reassured me. People who looked too impressed by a legal problem usually wanted to sell something. Leah read the documents in silence, repository logs, early design files, emails between Ryan and me, the capstone declaration, the Careloop website. When she finished, she removed her glasses. You wrote the code? Yes. Were you employed by Ryan? No. Paid by a company? No. Did you sign an assignment agreement? No. Did you sign anything giving him ownership? No. Did the university employ you to create it? No, it's a capstone project. She nodded. Good, I still want the university policy. I brought it. That got the first sign of approval. She read it. Also good. I waited. So what happens? That depends on what they do. They already copied it. Possibly. I have the download log. You have evidence that his credentials downloaded a repository he was authorized to access at the time. I frowned. He took the code. Language matters. That was the third useful lesson of my second life. Anger like certainty, law like precision. Leah tapped the Careloop webpage. This is more interesting. Why? Because they're publicly representing a product. If they later seek investment and represent that they own the underlying technology, the consequences become more serious. So I should contact them. Not yet. I blinked. I thought you'd send a cease and desist. I might. Then why wait? Because first I want clean evidence of what exists today. I also want to know whether their public product actually contains your protected code or merely describes similar functionality. That means a technical comparison. Yes. I can't access their system. Correct, don't. The firmness in her voice made me sit straighter. No guessing passwords, no old credentials, no asking friends to get screenshots from private dashboards. I wouldn't. Good, you'd be surprised. I've already been surprised enough this year. That almost made her smile. She made a list. Preserve records, register the software, copyright if appropriate, document public claims, do not communicate substantively with Ryan, do not threaten him, do not post accusations online. Being wrong doesn't exempt you from procedure. Leah said. I wrote that down. She noticed. You don't have to write everything I say. I like records. Good instinct. When I left, I felt lighter. Not because the situation was resolved, because I had a process that afternoon. Careloop posted its first promotional video. Ryan stood in front of a whiteboard wearing the same navy jacket he had bought for our anniversary dinner. Vanessa filmed him. Our founding team built Careloop from scratch after seeing how difficult staffing was for local home care providers. I watched once, only once, then saved the video. At the bottom of the post was a line that mattered far more than his smile. Currently raising our pre-seed round. I forwarded it to Leah. She replied 6 minutes later, received, do nothing else today. I liked her more with every email. My final capstone review was 3 weeks away. Julian became stricter as it approached. He challenged my scalability assumptions. He found a race condition in a test environment that took me 9 hours to reproduce. I hated him for approximately 20 minutes. Then I fixed it. When I showed him the patch, he leaned back. Nice. That's all. What do you want, a parade? Yes. Budget cuts. I laughed. The attraction between us had become obvious enough that even Maya stopped pretending not to notice. Do you know how annoying it is that he's emotionally competent? She asked one night. He found a race condition. That's not what I meant. I know. Have you asked him out? No. Why? He's reviewing my capstone. She pointed at me with a chopstick. Good. Thank you. I was testing you. I passed. Barely. The truth was, part of me wanted to ask, not because Julian had rescued me, he hadn't, that was exactly why. He never texted me late at night demanding work, never expected an immediate reply, never turned technical criticism into a performance of superiority. When I disagreed, he listened. When I was right, he said so. When I was wrong, he didn't enjoy it. I had spent years mistaking intensity for intimacy. Julian was teaching me that calm could be just as dangerous to the heart. One evening after review, we walked toward the train station together. Your final panel is April 28th, he said. I know. After that, I submit my review. I know. Then Dr. Chan submits the grade. I also know that. He stopped walking. I turned. What? You asked me a question at the crosswalk. My pulse jumped. I did. You said, after my grade is submitted. I remember. I wasn't sure whether you were joking. I wasn't. The corner of his mouth moved. Neither was I. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he stepped back, but not before. Something unexpectedly tender moved through me. Ryan had spent years asking me to blur lines for him. One shared password, one unpaid weekend, one little favor, one document we'd fix later. Julian was standing 3 feet away from me because a line existed and he respected it. Even when neither of us liked it. All right, I said, all right. After, he smiled. After that night, another CareLoop video appeared. This one had been filmed at a startup networking event. Vanessa was speaking. Our proprietary scheduling engine is something Ryan and I have been building from the ground up. I paused the video. Proprietary from the ground up. The language was becoming more precise, more expensive. I saved the clip. Then I returned to my own code. They were building a company around a version of Lattice I had already outgrown. I didn't need to knock the building down. I only needed to make sure they couldn't claim I had built it for them. My final defense lasted 51 minutes. I remember that number because in my first life, I never reached the room. This time, I arrived 20 minutes early. Maya came with me and sat outside. You look pale, she said. That's encouraging. You always look pale when you're about to do something impressive. I also look pale when I'm sick. Same basic mechanism. Dr. Chan opened the door. Nora. I stood. Maya squeezed my arm. Go. Inside were 4 people. Dr. Chan, Professor Lang from Systems Engineering, a healthcare operations lecturer named Priya Shah, and Julian. He wore a jacket this time, not because he was trying to impress anyone, because final defenses were formal. He gave me one small nod, nothing else. For the next hour, he was not the man who had told me after. He was a reviewer that mattered to me more than flowers. Would have. I presented Lattice, not Ryan's version, mine, the rebuilt system, the one with modular constraints, cleaner data handling, and a new fallback model for incomplete staffing coverage. Professor Lang asked about computational trade-offs. Priya challenged my assumptions about rural travel times. Julian asked what would happen if the system optimized so aggressively that human schedulers stopped questioning it. I paused. That would be a failure. Technically. Operationally. He waited. I continued. Software can recommend. It shouldn't become an excuse for management to stop thinking. Priya smiled. Dr. Chan wrote something. The questioning ended. They asked me to step outside. Maya jumped up. How bad? I don't know. You always know. Then medium bad. The door opened 8 minutes later. Dr. Chan stood there. Congratulations. That was it. One word. I stared at her. She looked almost irritated. Nora, you passed. My knees nearly gave out. Maya screamed. Actually screamed. Jean flinched. Hallway. Sorry. I laughed, then cried, not dramatically. My eyes just filled before I could stop them. I turned away. That was when Julian stepped out. He stayed near the door. He did not touch me. Not yet. Congratulations, he said. Thank you. Your grade won't be formally entered until tomorrow. I laughed through the tears. still reviewing me. Until the system says otherwise. Very romantic. His eyes warmed. Tomorrow then. The next afternoon at 2:16 my final grade appeared. At 2:19 I received a text from an unfamiliar number. This is Julian Dr. Chan gave me permission to contact you now that my review role is complete. I smiled before I even opened the second message. Coffee. I wrote tea. His reply. I remembered our first date lasted 3 hours. Nothing dramatic happened. That might have been why I loved it. We talked about work, his first apartment. Maya's theory that every engineer eventually owned at least one screwdriver they couldn't remember buying. My mother's habit of sending me weather alerts for whether I could see outside the window. He asked about Ryan only once. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to, he said. But I assume the repository changes had something to do with him. They did. Is it ongoing? Yes. Do you need help? The question made something inside me tighten. I hated that reaction. No. Julian nodded. Okay. No persuasion, no wounded ego, no attempt to prove his usefulness, just okay. I looked at him. What? You really mean that? Mean what? That if I say no you're going to leave it alone? Yes, I laughed softly. That shouldn't be unusual. No. But it is. He didn't ask why. That made me want to tell him not yet, but someday. Graduation came 3 weeks later. The sky over Boston was painfully blue. Maya decorated her cap with tiny plastic keyboards. Mine said nothing. My mother arrived 2 hours early. She hugged me so tightly that my cap tilted. I am so proud of you. The sentence almost undid me. In my first life there had been no graduation day. There had been a semester of extensions, then withdrawal, then Ryan's startup, then one temporary solution after another until my own future had become the thing that was always postponed. I looked at the rows of chairs, at the gowns, at Dr. Chan pretending not to smile, at Maya waving both arms at someone across the lawn, at Julian standing beyond the family area because he had told me this day belonged to me. My mother took my hand. I know this year was difficult. Yes. I wish I'd handled some things differently. I looked at her. She looked nervous. That was new. Me too. I said it wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a door. Vanessa and Ryan did not attend. My aunt sent a text that morning explaining they had an important startup competition in New York. I replied with a thumbs up. Maya saw. You're terrifying. Efficient. That evening, the 5 of us went to dinner. My mother, Maya, Dr. Chan, briefly Julian, me. There were no speeches, thank God. At 9, Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then at me. No. What? Nothing. Maya. She sighed. CareLoop won second place in the East Coast Health Innovation Challenge. I took her phone. The video showed Ryan and Vanessa on a small stage. Ryan looked ecstatic. Vanessa was crying behind them. A screen displayed their product workflow. I watched for 20 seconds, then stopped. There in a flowchart near the bottom, a label: continuity penalty. Wait, my breath caught. Maya frowned. What? I enlarged the image. Penalty is misspelled. So, I made that typo 14 months ago. She looked at me. I fixed it later, but it was in the interface labels of the version Ryan downloaded. Maya's face changed. That's not proof by itself. Leah's voice had trained me well, but it was something, a fingerprint, a small human mistake traveling inside someone else's claim of invention. I forwarded the screenshot to Leah, then I put Maya's phone down. Julian, who had been watching quietly, asked, "Do you need to leave?" I looked around the table. At my graduation dinner, at the people who had actually shown up, no. For once, someone else's emergency could wait until morning. I raised my glass. To graduating. Maya lifted hers. To not committing misdemeanors. My mother looked confused. Dr. Chan said, "I don't want to know." Julian smiled at me, and for the first time since I woke up in my second life, I didn't feel like I was escaping my old future. I felt like I had reached one that belonged to me. My first paycheck from Graywell Health Systems was less dramatic than graduation and almost as emotional. I stared at the deposit notification in the break room. Julian, who had come downstairs to meet me for lunch, looked over my shoulder. "You've been paid before." "Not for software." "What were you paid for before?" "Library desk, tutoring, one terrible summer at a frozen yogurt shop." Define terrible. "I can still smell artificial mango when I'm stressed." He nodded solemnly. "Trauma." I put my phone away. Graywell wasn't glamorous. That was another thing I liked about it. We built operational tools for home care networks. My team had 9 engineers, 1 product manager, 2 analysts, and a director who ended meetings when there was nothing left to say. The first time someone asked me to stay late, my manager added, "Log the hours, take Friday morning if you go over." I almost asked her to repeat herself. At CareLoop in my first life, no one had tracked my hours because technically I had barely existed. I had been Ryan's girlfriend, then his technical partner. Then the person everyone called when something broke, it turned out being an employee was much nicer. Julian and I saw each other twice a week, sometimes 3 times. He cooked better than I did. I assembled furniture better than he did. We discovered these facts without turning either into a personality test. It was peaceful, which made it frightening. One Tuesday evening, my phone rang while we were eating noodles at a small place near Cambridge. Ryan, his real number. I had unblocked it on Leah's advice so future communications could be preserved. I let it ring. Julian glanced at the screen. You can take it. I don't want to. Then don't. It rang again and again. I answered, what? Ryan didn't bother with hello. We have a serious issue. I almost smiled. 6 months ago, those words would have triggered my body like an alarm. Now they sounded like what they were. His issue. What issue? The assignment service is locking under concurrent updates, I said. Nothing, Nora. How do you know I'm familiar with your assignment service? A pause. He changed tactics. Look, I know we're not on good terms. You married my cousin while dating me. Yes, Nora, I know. His irritation arrived before his apology. That told me everything. We have a pilot demo tomorrow, he continued. I just need you to look at one thing. No. 10 minutes. No. I'll pay you. No. Name a number. Julian looked down at his bowl, giving me privacy without pretending not to hear. Ryan exhaled. You know this code better than anyone. That was the closest he had come to admitting anything. I chose my words carefully. Then you should stop telling people you built it. Silence. I didn't say that. You've said it publicly several times. Vanessa handles marketing. Your name is on the company. Can we not do this tonight? You called me. He lowered his voice. Nora, this isn't personal anymore. I almost laughed. You're right. That seemed to surprise him. This is a business problem. Hire an engineer. We have engineers. Then you're covered. They don't know the old architecture. That sounds inconvenient. Nora, I have to go. He said my name once more. I hung up. My hands were steady. That felt better than power. Julian waited. I picked up my chopsticks. You're not going to ask? Do you want me to? No? Then no. I looked at him for a long moment. What? Nothing. You do that a lot. Do what? Look at me like I've passed some secret test. I smiled. Maybe you have. That seems unfair. I didn't study. A storm started while we were eating. By the time we left, rain hit the sidewalk hard enough to bounce. I'll take you home, Julian said. I can get the train. Nora. What? I'm offering a ride, not a rescue operation. I hesitated. That was exactly the kind of moment my old instincts complicated. Accepting something meant owing something. At least that was what years with Ryan had taught me. Julian waited. No pressure. Okay. I said. He drove me home at my building. He walked me to the entrance under one umbrella. Rain soaked one shoulder of his jacket. I unlocked the door. You want to come up? The question escaped before I thought about it. His eyes met mine. There was no confusion about what I meant. He stepped closer, then stopped. Do you want me to? I did. That scared me more than I expected. He saw the hesitation. His expression softened. Another night. Relief and disappointment collided. You don't have to. I know. He touched 2 fingers lightly to my wrist. Good night, Nora. Then he left. I stood inside the lobby listening to rain. My phone buzzed. An email. Leah. Careloop has announced a $1.8 million seed round. We should talk tomorrow. I opened the attached press release. Ryan and Vanessa were smiling in front of a glass wall. The headline called Careloop's platform, fully proprietary technology developed in-house by the founding team. This was no longer a college competition. They had raised real money on a statement that wasn't true. Leah read the financing announcement twice. Then she looked at me. This changes the risk. For them. For everyone. I sat across from her. What do we do? Now we send notice. The letter was not dramatic. That surprised me. No threats, no accusations of fraud, no promise to destroy anyone. It identified Lattice. It identified me as the author. It listed specific repository history. It noted public statements by Careloop that appeared inconsistent with those records. It requested that they preserve relevant documents and stop using protected material unless they could establish a valid license. Leah sent it to Careloop's registered office and corporate counsel. Ryan called me 20 minutes later. I did not answer. He called 9 times. Then Vanessa called. Then my aunt. I answered none of them. Leah had given me a sentence. Please direct all communications regarding Lattice to counsel. I used it 4 times that week. The 5th person to call was my mother. I answered. What is going on? I sent a legal notice. To Vanessa. To her company. My mother sounded frightened. She says you're accusing them of stealing. I haven't spoken to her. She says lawyers are involved. They are? Nora, can this not be handled privately? I closed my eyes. Mom, I know what happened was wrong. This is not about the wedding. She says Ryan offered you part of the company after he used my work. I don't understand software law. Then trust me enough not to assume I'm doing this out of spite. Silence. That sentence hurt both of us. My mother eventually said, I don't want you to get hurt again. I know. I also don't want you to become someone bitter. There it was, the fear women were handed whenever we stopped absorbing damage. Quietly, I spoke slowly. Protecting my work is not bitterness. I didn't say, I have to go. This time hanging up hurt. Julian found me on the roof deck of his building that evening. I had gone there because his apartment felt too warm. He handed me a sweatshirt. I don't need it. You're shivering. I am not. You're literally shaking. I took it. Fine. He leaned against the railing. What happened? I told him about my mother. Not everything else. He listened. She thinks I'm angry. You are angry. I mean, she thinks that's the reason I'm doing this. Is it? No? Then there you go. I turned toward him. That's your advice. I don't think you need advice. What do I need? He thought about it. Probably dinner. I laughed despite myself, then the laughter disappeared. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Let people care about me without wondering when they're going to ask for something. He was quiet. I regretted saying it immediately, then Julian stepped closer. Can I kiss you? Every answer I had ever given Ryan seemed to flash through me. Of course, sure. Whatever you want. Don't be mad. I looked at Julian. He was waiting. Really waiting? Yes. He kissed me gently, no urgency, no ownership, just warmth and the faint taste of mint. When he pulled back, his forehead rested near mine. Okay. I nodded. Okay. It was the first kiss of my second life. I had expected fireworks. Instead, I felt safe. That turned out to be much more dangerous. 3 days later, Careloop's attorney replied to Leah. They denied infringement. They claimed Ryan had been a conceptual co-creator. They argued that the Careloop system had been independently developed after his collaboration with me ended. Leah slid the letter across the desk. What do you think? They're lying. Not the legal answer, I sighed. They're asserting independent development. Correct. What happens now? We ask for specific clarification. We don't litigate unless necessary. I hated that. Part of me wanted a courtroom, a judge, a clean declaration that I had been right. Real life was slower, more expensive. Messier. Then Leah pointed to a paragraph near the bottom. Careloop was preparing a series of financing round. Its counsel expected the matter to be resolved before diligence. They have a problem, Leah said. Because of us. Because investors don't like uncertain IP ownership. I thought of Ryan saying we could fix the paperwork later. Apparently later had arrived. The next morning, I received an email directly from him. No greeting. Attached was a document titled Confirmation of Contribution and Technology License. I forwarded it to Leah without opening the attachment. She called me. Good. What is it? A retroactive license. For what? For almost everything. I laughed once. So they're admitting they need one. Not necessarily. Don't overread it. Right precision. You're learning. I did open the document after she reviewed it. They offered me 5% equity, a technical advisor title, a modest cash payment in exchange. I would confirm that Careloop had the right to use all versions of Lattice created before March. The contract also contained a release, broad enough to erase almost every claim I had. Ryan texted, "This is more than fair." I showed Julian. He read only the first page, then handed the phone back. What are you going to do? Say no. Then say no. You don't think I should take the money? It isn't my decision. What if it's a lot? Still not my decision. I stared at him. He sighed. You're doing the test thing again. Maybe. He smiled. 2 weeks later, Careloop announced that it had entered Series A discussions with Northbridge Ventures. The press release included one sentence that made Leah call me immediately. Northbridge's investment process includes independent technical and intellectual property diligence. Now, Leah said, we wait. Ryan and Vanessa came to my office building on a Thursday together. They did not make it past reception. My manager called me. There are 2 people downstairs asking for you. I knew before she said their names. Do you want security to remove them? That question alone was worth half my salary. No, I'll go down. Julian was not there. Leah was not there. No one was going to stand beside me and make the moment easier. That mattered. I walked into the lobby. Ryan looked older, not dramatically, just tired. His shirt was wrinkled. Vanessa's hair was perfect, but she was gripping her handbag so tightly that her knuckles were pale. Nora, she said, why are you here? We need to talk. You have my attorney's contact information. This isn't legal, Ryan said. I almost smiled. Everything about CareLoop is legal now. He looked around. Can we go somewhere private? No. Vanessa stepped closer. Nora, please. That word, please, I had used it so many times in my old life. It sounded different from the other side. Ryan lowered his voice. Northbridge found the code history. I said nothing. The third-party team says there are similarities. Are there? His jaw tightened. You know there are? Then I'm not sure why you're here. Vanessa spoke quickly. We can fix this. How? You join the company. I actually laughed. She flinched. I'm serious, she said. Not as an advisor, as CTO. No. 20%. No. Ryan stepped in. Listen to the offer. I did. You haven't heard the salary. I don't care. His patience snapped. This is exactly what you always wanted. The words hit something deep. What did I always want? To build this. No. You spent more than a year on it. I wanted to build Lattice. That's what CareLoop is. No, Ryan. My voice stayed calm. CareLoop is the company you built around a copy of Lattice after you married someone. Elson assumed I'd eventually come back to make it work. Vanessa's face changed. That isn't fair. I looked at her. Which part? I didn't know he downloaded everything. Ryan turned. Vanessa. What? You said Nora had agreed we could use the early work. I said we built it together. You said she would sign. There it was, the first crack, not created by me, already there. Ryan looked at her with open anger. Not here. Vanessa laughed sharply. You brought me here. I stepped back. You should leave. Ryan turned to me. Nora, Northbridge will walk if this isn't resolved. That isn't my decision. 3 people will lose jobs. That hurt. He saw it. Of course he did. Ryan had always known where to press. Nora, whatever you think of me, there are employees now. I swallowed, then remembered Leah, remembered Dr. Chun, remembered my first life. How many times had someone else's dependency become my leash? I didn't hire them. I said, you can save the company. I can protect you from a problem you created. What's the difference? Consent. He stared at me. Vanessa's eyes filled. For 1 second. I saw the cousin I had grown up with, the girl who borrowed my sweaters, who slept on my bedroom floor during family holidays. Grief moved through me again, but grief was not an obligation. I won't join CareLoop, I said. Ryan's face went cold. Then what do you want? Nothing from you. That is such bullshit. No. You want us to fail? I thought about it honestly. Did I? A year ago, maybe. In my first life, definitely now. I want my name kept off your decisions. He shook his head. You've changed. Yes. That was the one accusation I accepted. They left that night. I told Julian everything about the meeting. He listened from the other end of his sofa. I hated saying no because of the employees. I know. What if they lose their jobs? Then that will be painful. You're supposed to tell me it isn't my fault. Do you want me to? No? Then I won't. I looked down. He continued. If you join out of guilt and certify something that isn't true, does that protect those employees? No. If you take responsibility for technical claims you didn't make, does that repair the company? No. Then make the decision you can live with after you're no longer angry. I looked up. That was almost advice. Don't tell anyone. I moved closer. He put his arm around me. I let him. The next morning, Northbridge's diligence firm sent Leah a formal inquiry. They had identified me through repository metadata contained in CareLoop's production materials. They wanted confirmation of authorship. Leah forwarded the request. Underneath she wrote, now we answer. The technical report was 47 pages. I read every one. The auditors had not accused anyone of theft. Again, precision. They documented commit timestamps, file structure, comment patterns, function names, and optimization heuristic. I had written at 2 in the morning while eating microwave popcorn. Even the misspelled penalty label appeared in a legacy configuration file. CareLoop's current product was not identical to Lattice. Their engineers had changed it, extended it, rewritten portions, but the report concluded that substantial parts of the original codebase appeared to derive from my repository. Northbridge paused the investment process, not cancelled. Paused. That distinction mattered. Ryan publicly blamed routine diligence delays. Privately, he sent me 14 messages. I saved them all. One said, you could end this tomorrow. Another, I hope you're happy. I wasn't. That surprised me. I had imagined this moment in my first life. Ryan cornered. Vanessa panicking. Everyone finally knowing I had been right. There should have been satisfaction. Instead, I felt tired. That night, Julian came over with groceries. He found me sitting on the kitchen floor, not crying, just sitting. He put the bag on the counter, then sat down across from me. Bad day. Yes. Want to talk? I looked at him. For months, I had told him almost everything except the part that explained why I sometimes reacted to events before they happened, why I knew which words Ryan would use, why I had protected evidence before anyone advised me to, why the courthouse wedding hadn't shocked me enough. I died once, I said. Julian didn't move. I laughed weakly. That went well, Nora. I know how it sounds, tell me. So I did, not beautifully, not in order. I told him about the first wedding, the scene at City Hall, missing my review, the months afterward, how Ryan had convinced me that if I helped build CareLoop, the betrayal would somehow hurt less because at least our work had meant something, how I became indispensable and invisible at the same time, how the company grew just enough to create bigger problems, how an investor dispute had exposed the absence of clean IP documents, how Ryan said we would fix it, how Vanessa said I was trying to punish them for their marriage, how I had been pulled into years of legal arguments because my code was everywhere and my name was almost nowhere. Then I told him about the rain, the highway, the headlights. Waking up 5 years earlier. Julian stayed very still. When I finished, the refrigerator motor clicked on. I don't know whether you believe me, I whispered. He exhaled. I believe that you remember it. That isn't the same thing. No. I looked away. He continued. I don't know what happened to you. My chest tightened. But I know you aren't lying to me. I looked at him. And I know you've been living like someone who escaped a fire nobody else can see. Something inside me broke. Not loudly. I covered my face. Julian moved closer, then stopped. Can I? I nodded. He held me. I cried into his shirt. Not because Ryan's company was failing, because someone had finally heard the impossible part and hadn't used it to make me feel impossible too. The next morning, my life got less private. Ryan gave an interview to a startup blog. He didn't name me, but he described a former romantic partner who was using an old academic collaboration to interfere with financing. Leah called. Do not respond online. I know. I'm serious. I know. Good. By noon, people at Harbor Bridge had figured out who he meant. Maya sent me screenshots. I turned off my phone. Then Dr. Chen emailed, if you wish, the university can confirm dates of authorship and submission. Nothing more. I stared at the message. Facts, not drama. I forwarded it to Leah. Together we issued one statement, 3 sentences. I was the original author of Lattice. I had not assigned ownership of Lattice to CareLoop. The matter was being handled through counsel. That was all. No accusations, no wedding story, no revenge narrative. Ryan's interview disappeared 2 days later. Northbridge formally suspended financing. 3 days after that, CareLoop's biggest pilot customer paused deployment pending clarification of product ownership and support risk. I watched the announcements from my desk at Graywell. No champagne, no victory speech. Just a quiet awareness. In my first life, every consequence had somehow become mine to repair. This time I let consequence remain where it landed. My mother came to my apartment on a Sunday morning carrying banana bread. That was how I knew the conversation would be serious. She only baked when nervous. I spoke to your aunt, she said. I let her in, I assumed. She says Vanessa is staying with them. I stopped. Why? Ryan and Vanessa are having problems. I put the bread on the counter. I don't need updates. I know. My mother stood near the door. Then she said, I was wrong. I turned. She looked older than she had at graduation, not dramatically, just tired around the eyes. I kept asking you to be the reasonable one, she said. I didn't answer. I told myself it was because I trusted you. My throat tightened. But really, she continued, it was easier to ask the person who usually gave in. There are apologies you wait years to hear. When they finally come, they do not repair the years, but they can stop adding new damage. I needed you to believe me. I said, I know. You didn't. No. That honesty mattered. She didn't say she had done her best, didn't tell me families were complicated, didn't ask me to forgive Vanessa. She just stood there and let the truth remain uncomfortable. I am sorry, she said. I hugged her, not because everything was fixed, because for the first time I believed it might be. My relationship with Julian was harder. Not because he did anything wrong, because safety had started to reveal parts of me that crisis had hidden. One night he offered to review a presentation I was giving at work. I snapped. I don't need you checking my work. He stared at me. I offered. I know what you offered. Apparently not. The words were sharper than usual. I froze. Julian put the laptop aside. Nora, what's happening? Nothing. That's not true. I stood. I should go. He didn't stop me. That made me angrier, which made no sense. At the door I turned. You could at least say something. His expression changed. Like what? I don't know. You just told me you don't need me checking your work. I don't? Okay. You always do that. Respect what you say. The frustration in his voice startled me. I am not Ryan. I know. Then stop making me prove it every time I offer you something. Silence, he stood. I will never make you give up control of your life to keep me comfortable. My eyes burned. But being with someone means sometimes they carry a grocery bag, sometimes they read your slides, sometimes you have a terrible day and don't have to earn the right to be cared for. I swallowed. I don't know how. I know. That isn't fair to you. No relationship is built by two people arriving finished. I looked at him, he continued. But you have to decide whether you're actually with me or just keeping me close enough to pass tests. Ryan failed. That hurt because it was true. I left anyway. The next day Leah forwarded a new proposal. Ryan was offering to publicly acknowledge me as original author. In exchange, I would grant a retroactive license allowing CareLoop to continue using the code. The email ended. This is the only way to save what all of us built. All of us. Even now I closed the message. Then I opened my presentation for work. On slide 19 was a chart Julian had offered to review. I stared at it for a long time, then I called him. He answered, "Hey. I'm sorry." Silence, then, "Okay." I was unfair. Yeah, I almost laughed. Could you pretend to hesitate before agreeing? No. I sat down. I don't want you to fix me. I don't want to. I also don't know how to stop waiting for something bad to happen. You probably don't stop all at once. I looked at the slide. Will you look at my presentation? A pause. Do you want feedback or reassurance? The question made me smile. Feedback. Send it. And Julian. Yeah, I love you. He went silent for one terrifying second. I thought I had broken him. Then he breathed out, "I love you too." No fireworks, no dramatic music, just the refrigerator humming in my apartment and a man on the phone saying the words like they were not a trap. The next morning, I told Leah to reject Ryan's proposal. I no longer needed his public confession. The evidence could speak for itself. Mediation took 11 hours. That was the least glamorous sentence ever written about revenge. There was no courtroom, no jury, no reporter waiting outside, just 2 conference rooms, bad coffee, expensive attorneys, and a mediator who moved back and forth carrying increasingly complicated pieces of paper. CareLoop did not admit intentional theft. I did not demand that they did. That surprised Ryan. At one point we crossed paths near the elevators. He looked exhausted. "Nora." I stopped. Our attorneys were 20 feet away. He looked at me for a long moment. "You could have just signed." "Yes. We could have fixed everything." "No." His mouth tightened. "You really believe this isn't revenge?" "I believe I don't owe you ownership of my work because you need it. You used to understand what we were trying to build." "I understood better than you did." That hurt him. I saw it. In another life I might have enjoyed that. Now I only felt sad. He looked down. "Vanessa and I are separating." I said nothing. "She says I lied to her." "Did you?" He looked at me, then laughed once. "Probably." That was the closest Ryan came to honesty. The final settlement was signed just after 9. CareLoop agreed to stop using specified disputed components. They received a limited transition period to migrate customers away from the old system. They paid me a settlement that covered legal fees and compensated for past use. Not millions, not life-changing money, real money, the kind that came with tax documents and confidentiality clauses. Northbridge withdrew from the Series A. CareLoop seed investors negotiated separately over representations made during financing. The hospital pilot ended. CareLoop did not disappear overnight. Companies rarely did. It shrank, then shrank again. Eventually the remaining team sold a small part of its customer service operation to another vendor. Ryan left as CEO. Vanessa left months earlier. No one went to prison. No federal agents arrived. No judge declared me the winner of my own life. I was strangely grateful for that because the real victory was much less cinematic. My job still existed on Monday. My name was still on my work. My degree was still hanging crookedly on my apartment wall because I had never fixed the frame. Julian still texted me asking whether I wanted Thai food. I had a life that continued after the conflict. That was something I had never had before. After mediation, I did not go home. I went to Julian's apartment. He opened the door wearing sweatpants and holding a wooden spoon. "You're early." "I know. How did it go?" "It's done." He searched my face. "Good done." "Complicated done." "Best kind." I stepped inside. He returned to the stove. I stood behind him for a moment, then wrapped my arms around his waist. He stopped. "You okay?" "Yes." "Want to talk?" "Not yet." "Okay." I rested my cheek against his back. This was different from needing someone to save me. I had saved myself. Now I was simply choosing where to go afterward. "I missed you," I said. He turned around. "You saw me yesterday." "I know." "That's serious." "Very." He kissed me later while we ate dinner on the floor because his dining table was covered in computer parts. He asked what I wanted to do with the settlement. "Pay Leah." "Romantic." Put the rest in savings. Extremely romantic. Maybe travel. Now we're improving. I looked around his apartment, at the books stacked badly near the wall, at the screwdriver on the coffee table that neither of us remembered buying, at the bowl he had given me because mine was too hot to hold. I thought I'd feel bigger, I said. After winning. I didn't win. You know what I mean. I thought about it. I feel quieter. Julian nodded. Maybe that's bigger. I smiled. For once I didn't argue. 1 year after graduation, Harbor Bridge invited me back to speak to senior engineering students. Dr. Chan claimed it had nothing to do with favoritism. Maya claimed Dr. Chan did not possess enough emotion for favoritism. I declined to comment. My talk was called Building Systems People Can Trust. I spoke about software architecture, documentation, operational risk, the responsibility engineers had when business pressure pushed faster than evidence. I did not mention Ryan. I did not mention CareLoop. I did not have to. Afterward, one student stayed behind. She looked nervous. How do you know when to stop helping a project? The question caught me off guard. I thought about my answer. When helping requires you to pretend something isn't true. She nodded slowly. I hope that was enough. Outside the lecture hall, Julian was waiting. He no longer worked at Meridian. 6 months earlier, he had joined a smaller healthcare infrastructure company as engineering director. He still dressed like someone who resented formal shoes. You were good, he said. You're biased. Absolutely. Chun walked past us. She was adequate. I grinned. Thank you, Chun. She stopped. Your old lab desk is still scratched. That was already there. It was not. Then she kept walking. Julian looked at me. Criminal? Unproven. My phone buzzed for a second. Seeing Ryan's name still made my body remember. Then the feeling passed. It was an email. I almost deleted it. Instead I opened it. Nora, I don't expect you to answer. Good start. I've spent a lot of time being angry at you because it was easier than admitting I built plans around the assumption that you would always come back. I read that sentence twice. I thought you would be upset about Vanessa and eventually get over it. I thought you would help with the company because you cared about the work. I thought if I kept moving you'd adjust. I was wrong. I'm sorry. There was more. I didn't read it immediately. Julian watched my face. Ryan? Yes. Do you need a minute? I shook my head. No. I closed the email. I never replied. Not because I hated him, because some apologies belong to the person giving them. They do not require participation from the person who was hurt. My mother met us for dinner that evening. Our relationship was different now, less automatic, more honest. She no longer carried messages from my aunt. I no longer punished her for not understanding things before I explained them. Vanessa and I had not reconciled. Maybe we never would. I had stopped believing every family relationship needed to be repaired to prove I had healed. Some doors could remain closed without anyone standing behind them. Screaming, after dinner, Julian and I walked across campus. Spring had finally reached Boston. Students sat on the grass pretending finals did not exist. The engineering building glowed in the evening light. We stopped near the steps where I had once sat with my laptop during the worst week of my second life. Julian handed me a paper bag. What is this? Dessert. We just ate dessert. That was restaurant dessert. I didn't know there were categories. There are now. Inside were 2 lemon cookies from the bakery across the street. We sat on the steps. For a while, neither of us spoke. I thought about the woman I had been in my first life. I used to believe that if I worked harder, loved better, explained more clearly, sacrificed more gracefully, people would eventually choose me. Ryan had taught me otherwise. Julian had taught me something more important. Being chosen meant very little if the price was abandoning myself. He broke a cookie in half. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd stopped the wedding? I looked at him. He knew enough now to understand the weight of that question. I looked across the courtyard. In my first life I had tried. I had stood outside City Hall begging a man not to marry someone else. I had believed stopping that ceremony would save my future. In this life, I had let the doors close behind them, and then I had gone home, changed my passwords, finished my work, graduated, found a job, fallen in love without disappearing inside it, built a life no one else owned. I leaned against Julian's shoulder. I did stop something that day. He looked down at me. Just not the wedding. I smiled. Just not the wedding. He kissed the top of my head. Students crossed the courtyard. Someone laughed near the library. A bicycle bell rang in the distance. Nothing exploded. No one begged. No one lost everything at my feet. The world simply continued. Once, I would have thought that wasn't a dramatic enough ending. Now I knew better. Peace did not feel like winning. It felt like waking up in a life I no longer wanted to escape. And this time I intended to stay.